It has been confirmed that the Titan crew is lost in a tragic accident while diving the Titanic. And I will have an expert 20-year hard hat diver chime in this evening on Let's Talk Live podcast to let us know what he thinks might have happened. Good evening, and I don't really want to say happy Thursday, but welcome in to the Let's Talk Live podcast. This is episode 15. We're a little bit out of order with episodes, but I wanted to come in this evening and talk about the Titan sub that was confirmed that it tragically was lost at sea today. Now, we have been wanting to come on. Well, I have been wanting to come on, and had been recently talking to my mods, offline about this, and coming on and actually doing a show about it. But we wanted to wait and kind of give it a few days and see what happens. And tonight, after the confirmation that the sub was actually lost at sea, I thought it would be a good night to come on and talk about this. Now, I am not an expert in submersibles. I'm not an expert in diving, but I do have someone with me this evening that could probably shed some light as to what went on, because they have 20 years of experience in hard hat diving. Now, this person has been out of the diving industry for about 10 years, but I thought it'd be a great way to bring him on and maybe get some expert opinion and some guidance into what happened this evening. So let me bring him in, and I think you'll all be surprised of who this actually is. And it's funny, I was surprised in getting to know him as a great friend. He's opened up a lot more and told me a lot about his life, and I was very surprised to find out that he actually at one time was a hard hat diver. I keep saying driver, hard hat diver. So let me bring this gentleman in. And AZ, how are you?
Hey, Brian. How we doing?
How are you?
Good.
So if everybody knows, this is AZ. It's one of the channel mods here. And if you want, you can send the emoji down there, the AZ emoji, and give him some love in the room. We would love that. But it's funny. I've gotten the opportunity to really get to know you over the last couple of months. And like I was telling the audience that, as we've gotten to, become friendly, you've told me a lot about your life. And I was very surprised, I didn't know this, that you actually used to be a hard hat diver. And maybe you can just give us a little bit of your background and actually tell the audience, what hard hat diving is.
Sure. Yeah, hard hat diving. So I guess I'll start with the difference: hard hat diving versus scuba diving. Scuba is a piece of equipment. It's, most people understand it stands for self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. And that's used mostly for, sport diving and lighter applications. But when you get into heavy construction, demolition, salvage, that type of thing. The equipment is different. And so you wear a helmet, your air comes through a hose from the surface. It's called surface supplied diving, which
Sure.
is, obviously it's different from self-contained scuba. That's I guess, a little explanation of the term hard hat diver. And the work is, it's kind of split between inland and offshore. The offshore stuff is like you see in the oil fields, drilling for oil, a lot of diving down there. And then the other side of it is referred to as inland diving, which is your bridges, dams, pipelines. Every power plant uses water for cooling. So there's just a lot of need for people to work underwater, both building and maintaining these structures and equipment that we need to keep working, so
Sure.
yeah, so that's what I did. I was mostly inland, but also did some offshore pipeline work.
Wow. So yeah, I mean, if anybody had ever seen the movie, what is it, Men of Honor? That's Cuba Gooding Jr. and Robert De Niro. That's hard hat diving, right? When they
Yes.
actually, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So if
that was
anybody
back
has seen that movie, that's actually what AZ did, and that's what he's actually talking about here. So we've been talking. I was saying offline for the last couple of days, and we have been kind of following the story. And I said, well, do you think we should go on and do a show about it? He said, well, I probably would wait, maybe a couple of days, maybe we have this miracle rescued. But unfortunately, today we found out that there was a tragedy on board of that vessel. Unfortunately, the 5 people did lose their life in that accident. And it's tragic. And it is a tragic accident. And, again, I'm not an expert in this, but I thought, bringing in AZ could shed a little bit of light. What I'm going to do first is kind of bring up an article and get everybody kind of caught up to speed. We'll read through this. And I have a couple other videos that I want to show. There was actually a TikTok video that demonstrated what actually happened and gives some context as to what a implosion is. Because I think a lot of people just think, oh, an explosion was an explosion. This actually was an implosion. And maybe AZ can shed some light on that as well and give some of his expertise in this. But we'll read through this really quick. So Titanic submersible, there was live updates, catastrophic implosion, killed 5 aboard, possibly Sunday. So, rest in peace to those souls down there. Is truly tragic. The 5 people aboard the submersible that had been missing for days were killed when a small vessel carrying them to the Titanic wreckage site had a catastrophic implosion, the Coast Guard said Thursday afternoon. Members of a massive international search effort found a debris field in the general area of the Titanic earlier that day, and it was confirmed to contain parts of the Titan sub. Now, what I heard was with a particular area, because there was a lot of, I guess, some confusion about it, because as we've what I know about the Titanic and know about the wreckage, the way that it was spilt across the ocean floor, and just to let the audience know, the particular area where this debris field was found had been confirmed that there was no confirmed debris of the Titanic in that area. I have that right, AZ? I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah, I heard the same thing. Yep.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm hitting my point correctly there. So it says the debris is consistent with a catastrophic implosion of the vessel. Rear Admiral John, I think it's Mauger, commander of the 1st Coast Guard District, said in a news conference. The debris was found about 1,600 feet from the Titanic bow of the seafloor. Mauger adding that it was too early to tell when the Titan imploded. However, an anomaly the U.S. Navy detected Sunday was likely a small watercraft fatal blast, according to a senior military official. The irregularity was picked up when the Navy went back and analyzed the acoustic data after the submersible reported that day. The anomaly was consistent with an implosion or explosion in a general vicinity of where the Titan submersible was operating when communications were lost. A senior Navy official told the Associated Press, speaking in the condition of anonymity. Yeah, say that a couple of times. The Naval shared the information with the Coast Guard, but the data was not considered definitive. Paul Hankins, a U.S. Navy director of salvage operation and ocean engineering, said the debris field Thursday indicated a catastrophic event. He and Mauger said it included a tail cone and the end bell pressure hull of the aft end bell, which, according to Hawkins, basically comprised of totality of that pressure vessel. Wow. The 22-foot vehicle was on a dive to the Titanic when it lost contact with its support ship Sunday morning. Ocean Gate, the company that operated the Titan and whose CEO, Stockton Rush, piloted the watercraft, issued a statement saying the travelers have sadly been lost. We grieve the loss of life and joy they brought to everyone they knew, the statement said. The other 4 people believed to have perished were Pakistani businessmen. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm just going to say Mr. Daewoo, because I don't want to mess his name up. So I apologize about that. And his son, British adventurer Hamish Harding, and French deep sea explorer, the Titanic expert Paul Henry. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm probably going to mess this up. I'm not going to get this one. So I apologize about not getting the names correct. Our hearts go out to the families and the loved ones of those who lost their lives on the Titan, the White House said in a statement. They have been through a harrowing ordeal over the past few days, and we are keeping them in their thoughts and prayers. The debris field discovered early Thursday. Search and rescue crews remotely operating an underwater vehicle had discovered debris near the Titanic early Thursday, the day the submersible was expected to run out of oxygen. The debris field was found remotely operated by a remotely operated vehicle, or ROV, associated with the Canadian vessel Horizon Arctic, that reached the seafloor and began searching for submersible early Thursday, according to the Coast Guard, which said ROVs will be used to continue investigate of what happened. The complex search and rescue missions attracted international attention and involved personnel from the U.S., Canadian, French, and United Kingdom. The ROV associated with the French vessel also deployed Thursday, the Coast Guard said. The acceleration search efforts came in the updated prediction by the Coast Guard that said the Titan submersible will likely run out of oxygen roughly around 7 a.m. EDT Thursday, and initially had 96 hours of oxygen for the crew of 5. Experts said and noted the estimates in the end, running out of oxygen was not the biggest problem. I'm not going to read too much more. It's going to probably go into the history of Ocean Gate. I don't want to overkill everybody with the article, but we get kind of a basic gist of what happened here. It's funny because we were talking a couple nights ago, and I said, hey, I know that oxygen is going to be a big issue on this. If they do find this and they get to a certain point where they can pull this up and say they're on that 96-hour timeline, would there be a way for them to get a hose down and kind of plug it in? And I asked you this, and you basically said that it probably wouldn't happen. And here's the reasons why. And you talked about the hull of the ship, and maybe you could talk a little bit about that you don't want too many, I forget what you were saying, like too many penetration. Yeah. So maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So when they build these hulls, I mean, you don't want any hole that you put through that structure, it's a weak point. Yeah. So if you want something to stand up to heavy pressure, you put as few ports through as possible, and that would include auxiliary air. So the submersibles in hard suits that I'm familiar with, they don't even have them. So I would be surprised if this one had that, And not only that, but if they were sitting on bottom for any period of time, I mean, depending on the electrical, hypothermia is a real issue also,
Yeah, it's tragic, and it's definitely not a way that, I saw the documentary on Netflix about the diver that was the oil or platform diver, and how his umbilical cord literally got severed during a storm. And I think he went like over 100 hours without actual oxygen, but made it back up in his. They found him on the platform, got him back in the diving bell, and it was strange. The minute he got in there, they took his helmet off, and he was like, "Hey guys," like it's crazy. Knowing what he went through, I can only imagine. If this, let's say the submarine did make it to the bottom of the ocean floor and was sitting there. I mean, it's just definitely not a way that I would want to. Being oxygen depleted and then unfortunately having an implosion is just doesn't sound a very good way to go.
No, being trapped like that, it's not a good feeling. And the advantage that the diver had in the lost bell, he was geared up for cold water. You know what I mean? I mean, he was going down there to dive, and so he was geared up in his dry suit, insulated. So while no doubt it was cold in the bell, he was at least warm enough to survive.
Sure.
And he had air with him. Those bells are typically supplied with air banks. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to be him either, sitting on the ocean floor, hoping that your people get to you. Yes, very similar situations.
Let me just recognize this. So Beautiful Messy Ball has become a YouTube member. She is a rookie detective. Thank you so much. We appreciate that.
Give her a Steven.
What's that? Give him a Steven. There you go. Yeah. So what I want to do now is maybe for the audience, some may not know what an actual implosion is. What I did is I found this article from the New York Post, and it was a TikToker actually did a video and what might have happened during the Titanic sub's catastrophic implosion. Now, again, this is only someone speculating. It's not completely confirmed. I'm sure this accident's going to take months to maybe years to figure out what actually did happen, if they can do that. Do you think that they'll try to recover any part of that wreckage to maybe investigate what might have happened, or would they not waste their time on that? I'm sure they probably would have to, right?
Well, for one thing, I don't think there wouldn't be much left of the hull.
Sure.
So that wouldn't tell them much. The titanium domes on the ends, those would be down there. So in fact, I think they found both of those, right?
Yeah, I think they did. But yeah, I wonder how that gets investigated. I mean,
this is maybe not the time to get into it, but I'm sure that there will be litigation involved, or I would assume, right? So yeah, it's hard to say. It would be a really tough salvage, just to accomplish. It would all be
13,000 feet. That's crazy. That's
So you're talking ROVs, which stands for remote operated vehicle, and they're using those small manipulators. They're fairly limited in what they can do. So as far as bringing anything up, I don't know. I guess we'll just have to see.
Let's play this.
Brian, just quick. I'm sure that they'll do extensive surveys of the scene, whatever whatever they can see down there. They're doing it now. They're recording everything that they're looking at. So
sure,
they'll have all that to go over, at least visually. Depending on what they even have found. So we'll see.
Yeah, let's play this video. Again, I haven't watched it yet. I just kind of found this. I don't know what it's going to be. Again, I ran home from work and I said, well, I'm going to jump on and do a quick pod. I literally did about 5 minutes of preparation. AZ and I had been talking for a couple of days about this. Hey, man, you want to jump on and do a quick live? I said, absolutely. Let's go on there and talk about this. But yeah, let me pull this video up and see what this TikToker actually put together. If you want to look at it, his TikTok is Starfield Studio. And again, I'd be curious to see what he put together. So let's hang on 1 second.
Looks like he's going to do a comparative on pounds per square inch.
Or since pounds per square inch. Yeah.
That should be good.
Yeah. All right. Let's rewind this. I hope everybody can see it here. We'll go full screen and. I'm just going to turn down the music so I don't get whacked for a copyright. Squirrel bite force. Wow. What?
Get out of here.
Are you serious?
Come on.
Hang on here. I gotta go. Oh, it doesn't let you fast forward. It doesn't let you fast forward.
It's a little squirrely to me.
Squirrel bite force is 7,000 to 22,000 psi. Not a joke.
Come on, chat. Somebody's gotta look that up.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
That's funny.
Yeah. All right, let's bring this article back up because
Was that the whole video?
Yeah, I thought it'd be a little bit more impressive, but let's see. So this is a little interesting. A GIF that has made its way around Reddit shows a tanker suddenly crumbling because of pressure difference between the air inside the tank and air outside. So this is it looks like a train tanker here, maybe water or oil or gasoline, and this is what an implosion would look like. So it basically collapsed in on itself. Now, AZ, can you explain what might have happened to cause this implosion?
Yeah, it's just a pressure differential, which just means a difference between the pressure inside the vessel and outside of the vessel. And in this case, the pressure inside the vessel was lower than the pressure outside. And that's what happens. And that's exactly what happened to the submersible.
I was reading. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was reading like if you actually I'm going to pop this article out just so you can see me a little bit better. So if you took like a Coke can or a beer can, and they said if you try to crush it this way, it's fairly strong. That would be sideways pressure. But if I tried to, obviously we know what happens when we crush a can this way, and that's probably what they said was. Maybe something in that because it was carbon fiber spun, I believe, shell. It was titanium, then carbon fiber spun. And they were saying that if there was any weak point in that carbon fiber, that's basically what would happen. The pressure would just crush in. Now,
that was actually me. That you were reading.
I'm sorry. I thought I read that somewhere today. I
wrote that today.
I'm sorry. You know what it was? I went on my break and tried to my break
shovel in as much as you can.
Digesting so much stuff to try to show in tonight. So but shit, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, so the end caps are good and strong, titanium domes, but the tube in the middle, that carbon fiber, and the way I watched a short video on it being spun, and man, I wouldn't want to go anywhere in that thing.
So Speculation Station has a question for you. Oh, real quick, let me just get to this real quick. So tonight, chat, I'm trying out this Nightbot. I've kind of figured out what it is. I don't know why it keeps saying stop spamming. I'm going to take care of that in the future. It's probably because you're typing too fast, but I promise I'll get those settings set for everybody. But this is a great way where I can use this Nightbot to do some advertising for me during the streams. So just give it a chance. I'm going to end up working on it. I apologize if it's too much. I'll just detach it from the stream tonight and I'll get the settings. Let me do this. I just want to take care of that for everybody. So everybody seems like they're getting a little annoyed. Let me just detach it from the stream and then I'll work on getting the settings set up, so I apologize. But I want to go back to this question. So Speculation Station is asking, what part is the hull?
Yeah, that's just the shell of any vessel, you know. So in this case, it would be the titanium domes on the ends in the carbon fiber tube in the middle.
Okay.
That they're connected to.
So we had actually James Cameron actually chime in today, and as we know, he dived Titanic quite a few times, and actually, he's very famous for making the Titanic movie, and it became a huge labor of love for him. Also, another incredible favorite movie of mine, and we were talking about this today, is The Abyss. I really love that movie. Some really great special effects in that for the time, what he did with that movie. But let's bring this up. It's about a 9-minute video, and let's hear what James Cameron had to say about this today.
Speaking of James Cameron, another person closely familiar with the Titanic is the director James Cameron himself, along with his Oscar-winning movie. Mr. Cameron, I understand you've made a number of dives to the wreckage site too. Just give us your sense on what you're feeling right now, looking at these images of the shipwreck that you studied so closely, and now hearing that another tragedy.
Easy, I don't know, man. That vessel doesn't look very secure to me. To me, it looks very dated, and not too secure. I mean, I don't want to knock on anybody's mechanical abilities of building, but I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's just it wasn't built for what they were doing.
Yeah. All right, let's play through here.
Has been tied to the same area.
Well, I've been down there many times. And I know the wreck site very well, as does my friend Bob Ballard. I've made 33 dives. I actually calculated that I've spent more time on the ship than the captain did back in the day.
Wow.
And of course, as a submersible designer myself, I designed and built a sub to go to the deepest place in the ocean, 3 times deeper than Titanic. So I understand the engineering problems associated with building this type of vehicle and all the safety protocols that you have to go through. And I think that what Bob said, as I was watching, is absolutely critical for people to really get the take-home message from this, from our effort here, is deep submergence diving is a mature art.
Yeah.
From the early 60s, where there were a few accidents, nobody was killed in the deep submergence, until now, is more time than between Kitty Hawk and the flight of the first 747. So if we haven't improved over that period of time, we have improved drastically over that period of time, and the certification protocols that all other deep submergence vehicles, except this one, that carry passengers, especially paying passengers, all over the world in tropical waters, deep coral reefs, other wreck sites, and so on. The safety record is the gold standard. Absolutely. Not only no fatalities, but no major incidents requiring all of these assets to converge to a site. Of course, that's the nightmare that we've all lived with, since all of us entered this field of deep exploration. We live with it in the back of our minds. But because implosion, as Bob described it, such a violent event, is first and foremost in our minds, the pressure boundary, which is what they call the hull of the sub, that the people go inside, is obviously first and foremost in our minds as engineers. And we spend so much time and energy on that. And we use all the computerized tools available today, finite element analysis. We worked on our sphere for our deep vehicle that went to the Challenger Deep for over 3 years, just in the computer, before we even made the thing. And then, of course, we pressure tested it over and over and over, and so on. So, this is a mature.
Whoops. Did I lose it here? I just want to pause this for a second. Kind of sounds like James giving a little licking here. Saying like, hey, we did a lot of research. We put 3 years just into the computer before we built ours. I don't know. I think it's a tough spot. I think it's a tough spot for a lot of these people that have been down and done these, deep ocean, explorations. I don't think that he's basically going to come out and say, hey, maybe they shouldn't have done this. But I think he's kind of,
Can read between the lines.
yeah, kind of saying thank you. I think that's the words I was looking for. Kind of saying, hey, maybe there should have been a little bit more safety in this, but we'll keep playing. I really admire his perspective. I mean, I would say he's an expert diver. He's been down 33 times to the Titanic. So
I've got an enormous amount of respect for him.
Yeah. All right, let's keep playing through this.
And many people in the community were very concerned about this sub, and a number of the top players in the deep submergence.
He's definitely not afraid to say it. I mean, he's coming out and saying it.
Engineering community even wrote letters to the company saying that what they were doing was too experimental to carry passengers and that needed to be certified and so on. So I'm struck by the similarity of the Titanic disaster itself, where the captain was repeatedly warned about ice ahead of his ship, and yet he steamed at full speed into an ice field on a moonless night, and many people died as a result. And for a very similar tragedy where warnings went unheeded to take place at the same exact site, with all the diving that's going on all around the world, I think it's just astonishing. It's really quite surreal. And of course, P.H. Nargeolet, the French legendary submersible dive pilot, a friend of mine. It's a very small community. I've known PH for 25 years. For him to have died tragically in this way is almost impossible for me to process.
It is certainly haunting to consider that comparison to the Titanic and what happened to the 5 people on board this submersible vehicle. James, I want to ask you, though, since you've been down on these dive missions before, we talked about the safety risks. We've reported.
I think Tsunami does bring up a good point, but I think, he's throwing some punches, but he's kind of telling people, like, stop being a fucking cowboy and do this the right way. That's kind of what I'm getting out of it. I think he's very concerned. And like you said, this is a very small group of people that do this. I mean, this is not something that's very cheap. These are millionaires and billionaires that put these projects together. And in my opinion, he's kind of like, slow your roll here a little bit. Let's, consult with some people. If they're saying that, there's engineers saying that, hey, maybe you want to look at this thing a little bit more, you should listen to that advice. These people are experts in this, and they don't want accidents like this to happen because it puts a bad mark on what they're trying to do. It's like I don't know,
it's like going out.
Go ahead.
Well, it's a little bit like hiking. There are people that are serious hikers.
Yep.
And then you have people that they go out and they're not prepared. They make bad decisions. And then the next thing you know, search and rescue is out looking for them. And people who are really into hiking will be the first to say, they should not have been doing what they were doing. And it can be upsetting. Like I feel it in the diving world when I see things. It can be upsetting to see people do foolish things around water in general. For me, even swimming pools, I get kind of irritated. So it just comes with the territory of this type of thing is when you see somebody doing something that they really shouldn't be doing, and especially if it's in your field, I'm like him, man. Like astonishing and surreal is what he said, and that's kind of how I feel about it. Like what I don't know. It doesn't make sense really why they would try this.
Yeah, and it was funny because we were actually comparing this, we were talking about Everest and about people that summit Everest.
Yeah,
And I remember watching a series, and it was really great. I think it was just called like Summiting Everest or something Everest, like one of those. It was like a 5-part series or something. And what happened, which they have these people that are basically tourists or tour guides, and what they do is you can pay them like $25,000 and they'll bring you up to base camp at Everest, and they just take these fucking people that have no expertise in climbing. They have no basics. They just pay the money, and there's some really shady companies that just take these people's money and bring them up there, fucking tag them on a tow line and go ahead, asshole, climb the mountain, and this is how people die. And there was luckily the crew that the film crew was following and documenting was a very legit company that made sure that you had to pass certain hiking and climbing regulations before they would take you in and let you actually go up, because essentially they're responsible. They're bringing you up. I'm sure that when you actually summit or try to summit, you have to sign waivers and stuff, because if you die on Everest, guess what? They ain't bringing you back down. You're going to be there because there's no way they can get you back down. But
it happens in the scuba diving world a lot too. When people go to resorts and they see somebody with a boat advertising, get certified to scuba dive in a day, and they take them out, and it's just, it's unregulated, and there's a lot of irresponsibility going on, and it's so, it's one thing if you're doing it on your own, but when you bring people that don't know any better,
right,
that's just not a good thing.
Let me pull up some of these chats. So Mind Your Business, he's just being really honest, talking about James Cameron here. MJC's asking, how many times did the vessel make this trip before, or was it just a test launch? I think it had gone down a couple times from what I was reading, but I don't think there was this many people on board before.
I don't think it ever went down anywhere near this deep. I got to be honest, I haven't done a lot of research on this vessel or this story, but I'm not sure about that. I
think that I read it did go down a few times.
I mean, they dove the thing a few times. I do know that.
Tsunami says this was a disaster, not an accident. Accidents can be avoided. Jet Set is saying, let's leave research and exploration to those with training and experts, not billionaires. So this is kind of how the chat feels tonight. Giovanna saying the CEO put cheap materials in that sub. Let's see. Speculation says, I would have given that money to charity before I took a trip in a non-regulated sardine can. Let's see. James said it shouldn't have been going down there and paying passengers. So that's kind of how the chat feels. And I have to concur. Like I really think this should be left to people who know what they're doing. All right, let's keep playing through and see what James had to say.
Reported on the fact that the people on board signed waivers. They knew that this was dangerous and that there weren't very many other vehicles.
So Dr. Bob, real quick, said that it had been down 6 times in 2021 and 7 in 22.
Really? To the Titanic?
Wow.
That can come get them out if something goes wrong. How aware were you of those concerns and those risks before you went down? And is there anything that should be done when it comes to safety in the future?
Look, it's comparing apples and oranges here. I went with a very proven system when I dove at Titanic with the Russian submersibles. They used very, very well understood design methodologies, and they had an excellent operating record when I dove with them, and they continued to have an excellent operating record, flawless operating record throughout their entire career. I think they're now retired. But I always had great confidence. Now, having said that, I always had confidence in the sub. The Titanic wreck site is a very hostile place. It's a dangerous site to dive. if you think of a typical research dive, you go down and you're really just operating over a bottom. You may be looking for organisms. You may be looking at geology. Hydrothermal vent sites can be a bit dangerous as well. But Titanic, you've got, this 8-story, 10-story high structure with overhanging metal structures. It's a twisted mess. You can get entangled. And entanglement was always a concern of ours, but we dove with a 2-sub system. We always felt confident that if one of the subs got ensnared, you'd still have communication, you'd still have life support, you'd still have power, you'd have another sub there that could help you manage the problem. We always felt that we were on pretty safe ground. This sub had no backup. It didn't have a lot of backup systems, from what I understand, and it was predicated on what I think of as a fundamentally flawed design principle, which is a carbon fiber hull. Which, when I first heard about a move toward composite hulls, and this was many years ago, even when I was designing my sub, there was another sub that was in competition with us to get to the Challenger Deep, that was operated by a guy named Chris Welsh for Richard Branson, and they had a composite hull. And I told those guys, I said, somebody's going to get killed in that sub or in a sub like it. And the DNA of the Ocean Gate sub was in that sub.
Dr. Pop says, great name for tonight, Titanium Built. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to laugh, but yeah, I mean, how ironic, right? Yeah, anyway, listen, real quick, let me just give a shout out to Titanium Built. She's on a race to 10,000 subs, as I am as well. I'm at about 7181. She's at about like 9,022 right now. Go over there if you haven't. Go over, subscribe to her channel. Let's get her to 10,000 subs and then come back and get me to 10,000 subs. But I'm gonna reach out to her and possibly do a collab with her soon. I'd really love to have her over here on the channel and get her perspective on Idaho. It's so nice to get away from Idaho tonight, though, and really focus on this. But let's keep playing through James Cameron here. This is very interesting, and he is fucking not holding back, man. He's definitely not holding back.
At the time, 2 hemispherical end caps and a carbon fiber cylinder in the center. And I never believed in that, because the way it fails is it delaminates, because you have to have a pressure hull made out of a contiguous material like steel, or like titanium, which is the proven standard, or like acrylic. I have a small equity stake in I think one of the best submersible companies in the world, Triton Submersibles, and they use acrylic for their hulls. But once again, it's a contiguous material, so you can do computer modeling to see how it'll behave. But this Ocean Gate sub had sensors on the inside of the hull to give them a warning when it was starting to crack. And I think if that's your idea of safety, then you're doing it wrong. You don't, and they probably had warning that their hull was starting to delaminate and starting to crack. Because as Bob pointed out, it's our belief, we understand from inside the community, that they had dropped their ascent weights and they were coming up trying to manage an emergency.
Wow. And to your point, a warning only goes so far when you have the ability to get back to the surface. So
they're speculating. Let me just go back, AZ. Maybe I didn't hear that, but correct me if I'm wrong. They're speculating what they heard in the community, that this sub dropped its counterweights and they were actually on an ascend to come back up. Am I getting that right?
That's what he said. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that means they must have found it. I believe they were using. I read somewhere they were using sandbags for ballast. So they would have likely found those sandbags in a pattern that told them these just all drop straight down. When you drop something, everybody knows when you drop something in the water, unless there's a current, there often is, it'll drop straight down. So if they had, let's say, 6 of these bags, it's probably more, and they drop into the bottom, they would land on the bottom like in a dice pattern, just like they were on the. So
I'm going to go back because there was someone actually asking if I could go back. I'm just going to rewind that about a minute so we can hear that again and just get the full detail on that. That is that's crazy. It's amazing to hear.
Equity stake and
it really is.
I think one of the best submersible companies in.
Listen here and see what he said about that. They wow,
the world. Triton submersibles, and they use acrylic for their hulls. But once again, it's a contiguous material, so you can do computer modeling to see how it'll behave. But this OceanGate sub had sensors on the inside of the hull to give them a warning when it was starting to crack. And I think if that's your idea of safety, then you're doing it wrong. You don't, and they probably had warning that their hull was starting to delaminate and starting to crack. Because as Bob pointed out, it's our belief, we understand from inside the community, that they had dropped their ascent weights and they were coming up trying to manage an emergency.
And to your point, a warning only goes so far when you have the ability to get back to the surface, or there's a backup vehicle there to come help you out of a bad situation. James Cameron, thank you so much for your time. I would like to bring Bob Ballard back in while we still have him on the line here, because Bob, I understand the wreckage of the Titanic here. It's not going to last forever. What more can we learn, should we learn about that shipwreck, and what can we do as we continue to explore this space in the ocean?
Well, the Titanic's bow went deep in. The anchor you were just showing is almost touching the sediment, so it went far in. And what we've learned about the deep sea is as soon as you go in a couple of centimeters, it's anoxic. So when we were down, we could literally scrape away the mud and you see a brand new hull. So the Titanic's bow is literally being held together by the fact that it's deep into the mud. And we all have different views. I think the Titanic, the main hull and those main pieces will be there for a long, long time.
Huh. Wow. So I'm going to say it. I mean, you may not say it, AZ, but I'm going to say it. And you've heard me say this the last couple. It's a mechanical asshole that they went down inside of. I mean, that's what I'm getting out of this, that this thing didn't have the safety regulations. It wasn't, I guess, certified the right way. It was probably built, a little bit behind in its time. And it's tragic. I don't want to shit on these people because we did lose 5 lives today. But I think, I have to go along with Cameron said. I mean, Cameron is an expert, a super expert in this. And he said, if you're doing it that way, it's probably done wrong. How do you feel?
Yeah, well, for sure. I mean, there's a reason why the legitimate submersible builders and, builders of hard suits and whatnot, they use the materials that they use for a reason. And that's what he said. I mean, nobody uses carbon fiber, especially if you're going that deep, man,
Yeah. So I have a question, and I don't want to get too crazy into the politics of this, because I'm sure, for another couple of weeks here, we're probably going to hear some mainstream media studios stories about this. But do you think now this opens up more regulation where, maybe a government entity has to step in, or some type of organization they put together to kind of mandate these? Now, I know from what I'm understanding, and I could be wrong, if you have the money to put one of these together, you can kind of just go do it and then go do it. I don't know. I may be wrong on this, but I'll kind of see what you think. Again, my question is, do you think now that something like this has happened, do we just move it on, brush it off as a tragedy, or does someone step in now and say, hey, we really need to start getting these submersibles or private submersibles regulated? What do you think?
Well, there's a couple of things. One, so international waters, right? Who's going to regulate? It's not a ship, right? And it's not a submarine. It's not under its own way. You drop it in the water and it does what it does. So, I mean, if somebody wants to build something like this and take it in the water, that's one thing. But when you're bringing passengers, and especially paying passengers, like a business, then
right.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what'll happen. I don't know. I'm sure there'll be a lot of talk about it. That's for sure. Whether anything's actually done, I don't know, or what could be done. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to, like I said, I think it's going to open up a huge topic of conversation now. I'm not sure if the US government will chime in. We tend to get in the middle of everything. Uh, uh, Maybe in some
Yeah,
cases. Go
the
ahead.
international waters part makes it. That's like you'd have to talk with a
Yeah.
really astute lawyer to get into that angle. But yeah, I mean, I guess one thing is, if you had a company, say in the United States, and you're advertising for subsea tourism, then absolutely, the U.S. could say you can't. If you're doing that here, you've got to have a certified vessel, and that's that.
Yeah. Well, I do know this, and maybe we can end the show with this. And I said, well, this thing looks like a mechanical asshole to me. Do you know of any companies that do it kind of the right way? And you told me about this company called Nutico or Nuco.
Nutco, yeah.
Oh, okay. And maybe we can bring their website up, and you can talk a little bit about some of maybe their products and kind of explain to everybody, like, this is kind of the right way you want to do it. Let's see here. Let's go to their any particular one I should click into, maybe something that goes down that deep, or
Well, so yeah, you can look at the Curacao. Would be a good one.
Sure.
So take a look. So this rated for 1,000 feet.
Mm-hmm.
This thing's made of steel. This was built for tourism. A client came to Nutco and asked them to build them this sub for subsea tourism. So they built it. They've been in business doing this for decades.
Right.
So they built them this sub. Now it's made of steel, and it's only rated for 1,000 feet, right? Because that's a safety precaution.
Right.
And it's got the acrylic dome, like Cameron was talking about, right? So it's metal and acrylic. And if you scroll down,
Sure.
hit general right there.
Okay. Sure. Yeah, you can talk about this. Yeah.
Actually, it'll hit life support.
No problem.
One pilot, 4 observers, so it's 5 people. Redundant O2 systems.
You can fit 5 people inside that. No kidding.
Right. And look at the total capacity. 480 man hours, 5 documents, 96 hours each. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah. That kind of sounds like the specs that were on this sub that just imploded.
Right.
So, yeah.
So these guys are legit. I mentioned to you before, the company that I worked for towards the end of my career, we were very closely associated with Nutco Research. In fact, we were in possession of the exosuit, which was back on the page.
Wow, look at this. There. Look at the eel. Wow. Look at that.
Yeah, there was a video of this thing actually capturing wolf fish.
No shit. That thing's pretty big, man. It's a pretty large sub.
Yeah.
Submersible. It's not a sub. Submersible.
Right.
There's difference between. So what is the difference? Is it just the depth that it goes down, or how? What?
Well, it's basically a sub is. It's basically a sub leaves port and heads out to sea and can go from port to port. A submersible, it rides on a boat and you drop it in the water and it goes down and comes back up and back on the boat.
Okay. You know what's crazy is I lived in Connecticut, down in and around New London, and there was a beach that I used to go to, and that's the big naval base right there. And I shit you not, one day it's like a fall day. There's no one on the beach. I had just wanted to get out and kind of walk around. It was like overcast, and I love the beach, so I'm down there, and like literally all of a sudden, a submarine just comes up out of the water there. It was like, holy shit, that's cool. Like you just heard, like all the noises coming. I'm like, what the fuck is that?
Is that Groton?
Yeah, right in Groton. It was the coolest thing that I've ever seen in my entire life. These tugboats came in, these naval tugboats came in, hooked up to it and kind of brought it into port. And I was like, that is the coolest thing. And then
really
I've seen one ascend as well too, which is pretty cool. I've seen them take it out and see it actually go down. So Yeah, pretty amazing stuff. Really,
check
really.
out the products real quick if you want to see something cool.
Yeah.
So the exosuit right there. Yeah. So we had possession of this, and we were scheduled. Well, they took it to Greece and dove on Antikythera, which I was supposed to go on, but I my career ended prior to that.
Sure.
This thing. So these are all articulating joints. You get inside it, obviously, and it's like a personal submarine.
It's like Iron Man.
Yeah. A lot of people compare it to Buzz Lightyear.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those joints, those articulating joints, those are full of when it's deployed, those are full of whale oil to keep them. Yeah. So you can spin them, right? Because it's whale oil does not compress, or it compresses very little, because I mean they live under sea, you know.
Right.
So every one of those joints is full of whale oil.
Makes sense.
Keeps them
beautiful. Probably a multi-million-dollar piece of equipment.
Oh yeah.
Look at this arm.
Yeah,
that's great.
Those are the manips. If you look at the boots,
have you ever seen the movie Inner Space before?
I may have.
Martin Short. He goes inside. What the hell was the other guy in that? Oh, damn it! Hang on. Inner Space movie. Hang on. Damn it! Who was that? The other guy. Dennis Quaid, Martin Short, and Meg Ryan. And what happens is Dennis Quaid gets shrunk down and goes inside Martin Short's body, and they have a bad guy that goes in after Dennis Quaid to try to kill him, and he has this hook thing on, kind of like that. It's a great movie. It's funny as hell.
Do you see that piece on the left? That piece of metal on the left? That's a Spyderco knife. It's a folding knife.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
This right here. Yeah.
Yeah, for cutting.
Wow.
And if you look at those are the thrusters. Makes it fly.
Look at this guy inside of it.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, something like that's probably going to weigh tons, right? I mean, I would imagine.
Not tons, no. But if you look, check out if you get done, check out the boot again. I wanted you to see I think that picture probably
right here.
Yeah, it's even got tread on it. Yeah. That's all aluminum.
It's wild.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm not. I don't remember the weight. If I ever knew specifically, check out it should be.
Yeah, the license for 2 redundant oxygen systems, total capacity 50 hours, 50 hours of carbon dioxide scrubber, backup life battery, propulsion
500 to 600 pounds.
Yeah, let's see. Telemetry. It's got all these kind of like onboard computers, emergency equipment.
That thing saved my life, actually. Believe it or not. I think I talked with you a little bit about that before.
Really?
Yeah, we used the scrubber in it.
There's some videos of it here. Let's see. We'll play this real quick and
the exosuit. And I guess, to be perfectly honest about it, the first thing it does is it corrects all the mistakes I made in the nude suit. I mean, the nude suit is now 25 years old. It's very hard to believe, but and no one had any previous experience prior to that suit being made, in this area at least. And so we learned an awful lot from it, and all of that has been put into the new suit. The exosuit, and of course all of the new advances in electronics and control. The thruster pack controls are where we have big clunky foot pads and everything to control the new suit. The new suit will be controlled just by a little thumb switch, so it's absolutely amazing stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, he was a real pioneer, Phil Newton. He just died in May.
Yeah, so Giovanna's saying that's interesting. Your job was very fascinating. Yeah, 20 years in the hard hat diving industry as a underwater welder. That's
I worked with some really, really good people, some real aces out there.
Yeah. So again, I wanted to come on, give an hour of time to this the story. I guess everybody had captured the world. It's a big story, and it's very tragic what happened. But I think I have to go back and kind of say, you know, what Cameron said, you know, really leave this to the experts. You know, it's no joke going down there at that depth. A lot of things can happen. Obviously, a lot of things happen in this case, and it's truly tragic. I didn't want to come on here and shit on the people, what happened to them, because it is sad. But maybe this kind of, I don't want to say wakes, I guess wakes some people up, you know, if they think about, you know, kind of cutting corners or not doing things the right way, like Cameron said, you know, maybe this gives them some pause and rethinks this, if they decide to go down there with this type of submersible. Tsunami's asking, what's the price tag on the exosuit? Do we know?
The suit alone was about right around $1 million, and then the launch and recovery system was about another $1 million.
Wow. So, yeah, I don't know. That's you know, again, I just wanted to come on, give some context of what's going on. I know AZ had a 20-year career in diving, and just kind of get his perspective on this. But I think we're gonna wrap this one up for this evening. What I'm gonna do is tomorrow, I will be back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There is the link for tomorrow night. That'll be a Idaho stream. We're going to talk about the Koberger DNA evidence. For my members, if you haven't seen the video, for my members only, and if you want to join a membership, you can go down there and support the channel. Hit that join button, and memberships are only $1.99 a month. That supports the channel and supports what I do. But if you are a member and you haven't seen the video yet, I've been trying to make a one video a week commitment to give back to my members, because you are paying members. I'm going to drop the link for that. If you're a paid member, you can go over and watch that video after I get done. It'll give you kind of a preview of what the rest of this weekend shows are, and give you a little bit of perspective of how I'm feeling about Brian Koberger at this time as well too. But again, we'll be back tomorrow night. We'll talk Idaho 4 and Brian Koberger, and we'll talk about this new DNA evidence that has come out and get a little bit deeper into that. I plan on putting together a super presentation tomorrow. I'm going to really put some thought into it, and I appreciate everybody coming over. I really do. You know, we got close to almost about 100 people watching tonight, and that's awesome. Thank you to all my mods. Thank you to everybody in the chat. We appreciate it. I'm going to be reaching out to Titanium Built soon and hopefully doing something with her. I'd love to collab with her. And again, I want to thank my guest this evening, AZ, for coming in and doing the stream with me. I do appreciate it, and appreciate your insight of this.
For sure. Happy to
All
be
right,
here.
guys. We'll be back tomorrow. Again, I appreciate everybody. Everybody have a safe rest of their evening. I'll see you back here tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, I'm Brian. This is the Let's Talk Live podcast. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.